This gripping case delves into the chilling murder of Air Force Major Karl Hoerig and the subsequent escape of his wife, Claudia, to her native Brazil. This international manhunt captivated the nation, raising complex legal and ethical questions about extradition and the pursuit of justice across borders. Hoerig was a highly decorated C-130 pilot with the 910th Operation Support Squadron and a father of two, at the time of his death in March 2007.
You still have the right to stop answering at any time. You also have the right to stop answering any time until you talk to a lawyer. Now, this is the waiver of rights. I have read, or have had read to me, the statement of my constitutional rights, and I understand what my rights are. I'm willing to make a statement and answer questions. I do not want a lawyer at this time. I understand and know what I am doing. No promises or threats have been made to me, and no pressure or coercion of any kind has been used against me. I therefore waive my rights and agree to make a statement. If that is true, please sign there.
Yeah, that doesn't mean that I...
In 2005, Karl Hoerig met Claudia Sobral, a Brazilian accountant and English teacher living in New York City. They quickly fell in love and married in Las Vegas that June. Claudia then moved to Newton Falls, Ohio, to live with Karl. Initially, their relationship appeared harmonious, according to Karl's younger brother, Paul Hoerig. However, it deteriorated over time. By early 2007, Karl was expressing his desire to leave Claudia. Paul recounted, he could see that she was basically dragging him down. Karl's family and friends described Claudia's behavior as increasingly erratic.
It's been a long time. Now, what name are you going? Are you going by Claudia or are you going by, what do you want me to call you?
Chris.
You want me to call you Chris? I'm going to start off just with today's date and time. I'm going to introduce myself. This is all for tape purposes, okay? I'll start out, I'll introduce myself, I'll introduce Bill, and I'll ask you to introduce yourself, okay? And then what we'll do is, I'll ask you your date of birth, that kind of stuff. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get into what happened 11 years ago.
Okay.
It's been a long, long time. Okay? Today's date is Wednesday, January 17, 2018. The time is 9:30.
The tranquility of the Hoerig household shattered on March 12, 2007 in his Newton Falls, Ohio home, when Major Karl Hoerig was found fatally shot in his home. Suspicion immediately fell upon his wife, Claudia, amidst a troubled marriage and rumors of an impending divorce. Claudia had vanished without a trace. Investigators soon discovered a chilling pattern. Claudia had emptied a joint bank account, withdrawn a significant sum of cash, and boarded a flight to Brazil.
Now, Claudia, you were here. Chris. She likes this. I'm going to call you Chris. You were here right now. You've been charged, almost 11 years ago, you were charged here with the murder of your husband. His name was Karl Hoerig. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, now, in the meantime, you just now came back on a plane from Brazil. Is that true?
Yes, that's true.
Okay. Now, where you were living in Brazil, do you have an address down there where you were living?
Yeah.
What was the address?
CLSW 504, Block A, apartment 145, the name of the town is Sudoeste, the city is Brasilia.
That's quite an address.
It's quite an address.
That is quite
I've been there for a few days, that's all the address. It's hard to...
That's quite an address.
Yes.
Chris, what's your date of birth?
August 23, 64.
Can I make sure how old?
53.
And you were a U.S. citizen. Do you have Social Security number? You know what your social is? Adding to the suspicion, she had purchased a .357 Magnum handgun just days before the murder. A month later, Claudia Hoerig was charged in absentia with aggravated murder. While the identity of the suspected killer was clear, the question of whether she would face justice remained. Brazilian law presents a significant obstacle, as it prohibits the extradition of Brazilian citizens.
And how you ended up in jail down in Brazil, but we'll get to that. That's kind of towards the end. What we kind of...
We've been talking for a month now.
We're going to be talking for a while. Don't you worry. I got coffee of it, so I'll be good. But I kind of want to start at the beginning. I want to go back to March 15th, 2007.
Okay, you're going to start from the end.
Well, yeah, the beginning and the end. Yes.
Kind of. I
start
think,
backwards. It's going to start backwards. It's not fair.
I think, in fairness, I think what you had already talked to Tony and I about on the plane, I think that that would be a very good place to start, because that you hit a lot of the most important things that you wanted to tell us. Whatever you're
Jumped all over the place, so
You
I don't know if I would be able to read. You're gonna have to help me.
Well, here's what will happen. You can jump all over the place. You're allowed to do that. And then what we'll do is we'll try to rein you back in. We'll try to bring you back in and try to make sense of it. I like to, the way I find over the years is I like to talk, if we talk in order, like say the day that this happened, and kind of move forward from there, that seems to jog the memory fairly well. But if you can tell me whatever you want to tell me, and then we'll go back and we'll go through it. What would be easier for you? How about that?
Bill,
Yes. I know how hard.
I want to be fair to the family, but I don't want to be unfair to myself. If I say only a few things and I don't say the whole thing,
Right.
I'm gonna look very bad.
I think that what I would like you to do, and this is entirely up to you, just talk about the things that you talked about with us before, the things that you were already comfortable with, the things that you told Tony and I on the airplane, okay? And then, once you're done doing that, if there's other things that you want to tell us, we will let you do that.
The evidence against Claudia was damning. Forensic evidence linked her to the crime scene, and investigators uncovered a trail of financial transactions that suggested she had meticulously planned her escape. However, Claudia's flight to Brazil presented a formidable obstacle to justice. Brazilian law prohibits the extradition of its own citizens, creating a legal impasse that would complicate the pursuit of justice for years to come.
Because I didn't want his family, which are very good people, to know the real person that he was. Because I like those people, they're very good people. And they don't know everything about that man.
I understand. Here's what I'll tell you about that.
And if I tell you, oh yeah, this is what I did this, but I don't tell you what led into this, that's my concern. Either tell you everything,
Right.
you know, I'm still confused about it.
Chris, here's what I'll tell you. The stage is yours. You tell us whatever you want to tell us. Okay, we're not going to control it for words in your mouth. Whatever you feel comfortable telling us.
So you heard my stories. I was emotional when I told you the stories. I don't completely remember what parts in the sequence in which I told these things.
Would it help?
If you could help me.
Would it help you if I ask you some of the questions based on what we talked about earlier?
Yes. You can help me. You can help me.
And we can start with that.
Yes. Because see, one thing is for me to talk the way I talk. I was more relaxed.
You were more relaxed. It was more
I'm not so
comfortable.
relaxed.
I
So my
understand.
memory shuts down.
It's a little scary.
It doesn't.
It's a little scary.
Because I feel like I'm under pressure to explain things. I didn't feel that way on the plane.
Right, and you're not going to be under any pressure. I'm not going to talk to you any differently now than
It's
we did
very
on
hard
the
not to
airplane.
feel
But
under
it's scary.
Only because I feel like if I only get the chance to say this much, and I don't say the whole thing, I'm going to incriminate myself, make myself look like a terrible person, and I'm not going to say why. And the why is that part. It's that part that I said that I didn't want to say to protect the family from knowing. It's very hard for a parent to know, you have children, to know bad things about your child, isn't it? I don't want to hurt that family. You know, they've been hurt, they already lost their son, and I don't want them to know certain parts of their son's personality because I can bring him back. I will not, I feel it will not change the outcome of my, of this case. I'm certain that I'm going to get, what's the word, convicted. I'm prepared for that. And to me, it doesn't matter anymore. I feel I'm 53, but I don't feel like 53. I feel like 103. So to me, you know, what 103-year-old has expectations of doing what with her life? You know, so.
Go ahead, help me. Yeah, I'm going to help you here a little bit because.
Yes, help me because.
Remember when we were talking?
All over the place.
When we were talking on the plane, Tony and I both said that we would not lie to you. We had a big conversation.
Yes.
And we did tell you that the things that you said to us, we can't keep secret. You know what I mean? We have to report what was said. So really all I would like from you right now is talk a little bit about the things that you told us on the plane. Because you did say some things that were very important that none of us knew. And we didn't know until you told us. And I think that's a very important part of your story. And it's a very important part of the entire story about what happened.
Piece of paper, because I feel better organized with a piece of paper.
You want to write something?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you this. If you
Not write this, just scratch. Having a piece of paper in front of me and a pen helps me out.
Now, let me ask you this, Chris. We can do it the way Bill's talking about doing it, if that's easier for you. What if I just ask you to explain, tell you, when we got to the house, this is what we saw. Can you tell us how this happened? Would that be something?
No, that's not how I want to tell
You don't want to do that?
stories.
Okay.
No.
Now, how do you want to tell me this story?
Bill, what do you think?
I think that
What part do you think?
I think what is important is a couple of things that you said that led up to what happened that day. The things that you said when you were talking about how things happened that day, and that it wasn't something that you planned in advance, but how it happened and the reason why it happened. The things that you said to him about being pregnant, his response to that, and what happened after the shower. The things that you said, I think that is a very important part of the story, and I think that's the thing that you need to tell him about that part.
Okay, to organize what point I'll start. The car, when I took medicine.
Yes, we did. So let's do this. Remember, when we were on the airplane, we were talking, Carl took you to the hospital. Remember, that's kind of how we started talking about things. Took you to the hospital for a mental evaluation because you had tried to kill yourself with that or thought about it.
Well, I think that's a very summarized version.
Right.
The story is
Long, yes.
very long. But yeah, we met through the internet.
On a website.
On a website.
What was that website called? Match.com?
I think so, yeah. And we dated for 2 months. 2 months. My glasses. Over the internet. He found me. I was in New York. He was here. He found me. And he put a lot of pressure on me to date him. I said, but why would I want to date a woman in New York? I said, no problem, because I can, I'm a pilot, and I can work anywhere in the U.S. that I want, and there is a base that is about 1 hour from New York, and I can ask them to transfer me. This was from the Air Force. I can transfer, can ask to be transferred to there. And I said, well, I don't remember exactly what I said, but he said, hey, I can prove to you that I can be, just tell me what day you want to be there, and I'll be there. I think I told him today or tomorrow, the next day, and he was there.
Showed up. Any by up there?
Yeah.
So you met him that day?
I met him that day, and I was like, wow, this man is not lying.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, I was impressed. Yeah, I was impressed. And he was a very good-looking guy. He showed up so well dressed up, and some hot pants, some looked like leather material. He was very well dressed, and I said, this man is very interesting. He's good-looking. Why would he want it so bad? And I would have to tell you the long story. Well, he trapped him. He wanted to marry me at any cost. And
Right there that day?
that day.
Wow. Didn't you say you were dating for like 2 months?
We dated for 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you were talking about getting married the first day?
The first day.
Wow.
Yeah. But I was in New York. We dated long distance. He was in Ohio. We dated over the phone. I went there once. No, he went there to New York once. Then I came to Ohio once. And then our next date was in Bell Island.
Pudding Bay?
Pudding Bay. Yes, Pudding Bay. And that day, I thought that man was crazy. He had made an engagement party. He invited all his friends there, and he prepared an engagement party for us without telling me that he was getting engaged to me. And everybody said to me, "Oh, Chris, congratulations, congratulations!" And I was like, "Yeah," but I didn't know what they are congratulating me for. It was my
Give you a
engagement.
ring?
No, never gave me a ring ever. First was our party, our engagement party.
Wow. Well,
And that day he took us to Pudding Bay, his brother Paul drove us to the ferry.
the buggy thing over there.
And they were talking my wedding party. I didn't know it was my wedding party they were talking about.
He planned the wedding without you.
Yeah. It was bizarre. But I was 40 years old. It's like, this is the man that everybody ever dreamed of. If I don't marry him now, I'll probably change his mind. So I was pressured into it. So our wedding day, that was it. We met 3 times and then we were going to Las Vegas.
Wow. Wow. That was quick, wasn't it? That was good. That's what started everything. We started talking about that, and we were all looking at each other just amazed. That was.
Usually it's the other way around. Usually the women plan it real fast. That's usually the way it happens.
No. He put a lot of pressure into me. And the thing is that he didn't pay for a thing. He always forgot his wallet. Always. I paid for all the trips. My trip to go to Ohio from New York.
What did you do for a living?
I'm an accountant.
No?
Yes. So I paid for my move to bring in all my furniture here. I paid for all the food in the house. I paid for our wedding. I paid for everything in the house. So after we got married, he surprised me. His 16-year-old son that lived in North Carolina,
Right.
with his mother. He brought his son to live with us. So we got married on June 30th of 2005. And we went to Las Vegas. When I came back, when we came back from Las Vegas, his son was in his house. I didn't know that. Living. Okay, so I wasn't working. I spent the month of July at home. I wasn't working. In August, he left for a course in Texas. It was a 3 to form a force because he worked full-time for the Air Force, and he decided to, and he didn't want to work full-time for the Air Force anymore. He wanted to work for Southwest. Southwest, full-time for Southwest, full-time, part-time for Southwest, part-time for the Air Force. He told me that he used to make $120,000 with the Air Force. I don't know if it's true. I never saw his checkbook. I never saw his bank account. I never had a joint account with this man. I never saw $1 of this man's money. Never gave me any of his money. Nothing. I paid all the bills in the house. No, I didn't. He paid the electric and the mortgage. Everything else was with me. Food, clothing for him. I bought his clothes, my clothes, his clothes, his son's clothes, everything. Going out for dinner, everything else was me. He paid for those two. So I remember he told me that with the Air Force he was going to make $25,000 in Southwest. About 40, I think altogether was not more than $65,000.
It was quite a pay cut.
You know why? Because he wanted a lifestyle, crazy lifestyle. That's the part that I didn't want to expose him.
I know, but since you talked to me about it, it's something that you're doing good. And Mike is just as nice as Tony, and we're sitting here, and I think it's important. This is an important part of your story.
He went on a crazy lifestyle of doing all kinds of perverted stuff, men, women, everything. And for you to have an idea what lifestyle he liked, he was addicted to a TV show called Miles High. Look it up YouTube. It's about pilot school where everybody had sex with everybody. He wanted that lifestyle, and he had that lifestyle. He was an unfaithful man, and he had sex with men and women. He was, that one thing.
And he told you this? I think you're going to need some more paper.
Chris, you just got through the hardest part. Okay? You just got, when we were talking earlier, that was the part that was hard for you. So you're doing really well. And I know that you're worried about that, and you've given us a very... You've given us a very good picture.
Listen, this has no bearing in whether I'm going to be convicted or not. I will be convicted. So why am I going to hurt that family knowing this?
Do you remember what we said on the airplane? That even if it's a bad story, they want to know what happened and why. Everybody wants to know. And you know, there's only one version of the story out there because you haven't really sure yet.
Here's the way I like to tell people to sit in your chair right there. You get one chance to tell your story. And this is it. I can't control what you tell me, but I'm going to tell you this is the one time you're going to get to sit here. We are not going to be able to do this again. Me and you are not going to sit across from each other at this table again. This is your one chance to make it all count. And that's what you need to remember. I know you've said it more than enough that you're not trying to like the family, you don't want to hurt the family.
Because they're alive and he's dead.
Right. My answer to you is, the truth speaks volumes. There is nothing like the truth. Whether we like the truth or not, we have to deal with it. You follow what I'm saying? And that's the way I think you're in the best interest of telling your story however you want to tell it. But this is your thing.
Yeah. This story that I'm telling you, who's going to hear it? Judge?
Absolutely. Yep.
doesn't mean the family is going to read these reports or see this. They're not going to hear everything that you tell us. At some point in time, some of these things may be discussed, but the family is not going to be sitting there when you're going to be told of them right away. Okay?
Right away, but at one point they will.
At some point in time, they may hear some of these things. And again, like I said, I already have to report the things that I heard because that's my obligation. That's my duty. So I'm going to have to report those things. So I would much rather, with Mike sitting here, hear them from you so we get it right.
Plus, hearing it from you probably helps. It helps. Might help people understand what ended up happening.
You really enlightened me when you're talking, and I really want you to hear that. I really want you to hear what you told me.
Yeah, I have to because the story is very long, has many parts to it. I have to summarize it because otherwise we're going to be here.
I'll tell you what, you summarize it, and then we'll go back and hit on the highlights. How about that?
So the month of July we spent together. We married on June 30th, and we spent together July. Not really. As soon as we got married in Las Vegas, I paid for the whole trip. I paid for everything. I didn't want to be married to him anymore.
Right after you got married?
Right after we got married. So I went back to New York. I went back to New York to my job. And because I lied to my boss, and I told her, I was so embarrassed to tell her that I was going to marry a man like that I just met. I was so embarrassed, so I wasn't even sure it was going to. I was so pressured into doing this. At some point, I figured that I was going to tell him, let's wait. But I wound up doing that, but I felt very, very bad, and I went back to New York, back to my work, didn't tell anything to my boss. I continued to work, and 2 weeks after I was there, he pressured me every day. He said, well, I gave you enough time for you to tell your boss that you're married. If you don't tell her that you're married, I'm going to call her right now, and I'm going to tell her that you married me a couple weeks ago. I said, please, don't do that. Don't do that because it's just going to hear it. It's going to hear it from me. I want to give her my version. So he gave me that day for me to tell my boss. So I walked into her office and I told her what happened. So then I had no more job. To Ohio, and he said, I'm going to change because he treated me very, very bad. He was like very aggressive with me just because I saw I'm afraid of AIDS. And the day we came back from Las Vegas, I saw a lot of AIDS on the ceiling and on the walls, big ants. And I started screaming, oh my God, kill those ants. He said, you never scream in that house again. I don't like screaming because you know what a soldier does? When they hear screaming, they react. They start talking to me in a way that he never talked to me before. I saw kindness here in him before, and then all of a sudden he was a different person. He scared the life out of me. So I told him I'm going back to New York. I'm going back to New York. So I went back to New York to continue to work, and then he forced me to leave my job. So I had no more job, and I had to,
You come back.
I came back to Ohio.
Come back to New Falls.
Yeah, and he said, he said something very interesting to me, beautiful words. He said, let me see if I remember. He said, you belong in here. Oh, I love those words. He knew the right words anyway. You belong in here. You are my wife, and you belong in here with me, by my side. I thought it was so, I love those words. They hit the right way. I thought he was sincere. I I thought he was really.
So, yeah, and so you came back, and how long after you came back did you start? You said you started working at a
CPA.
CPA?
Yeah, it was about August. I was pregnant. I was the baby. Probably
October. Okay, so you started working there in October.
Yeah.
How long had you been working there before you ended up going into the hospital and lost that job? How much time was that?
Well, that was in February of 2007. That was almost 2 years later.
Oh, 2 years later. Okay.
2 years later.
So you were working there for a while. You were at the county. You were at the county firm. And what led up you to go to the hospital that night?
Yeah, let me tell you about the pregnancy first.
Okay.
So in July, we were July of 2005, we were newlyweds, right? And his son was living with us, and he, in August, he decided to leave to go to Texas to take a flight course to work with Southwest. And he left his son with me for 3 to 4 months.
Now, is this at the house in Newton Falls?
Yeah.
Okay.
His son never saw me before. I never saw him. He didn't know it was a serial killer. He left his 16-year-old son with me. I thought that was weird. Not only that he left me, we had just gotten married. He decided to leave and left his son with me. So that was very weird. And he left no money for food, for anything. I had to take his son to school every day. I had a child all of a sudden, a 16-year-old child. I had to take him to school every day. I had to pay for his food. His clothes, he had no jacket, coat jacket, nothing. I had to take care of that boy, and I did. And in the beginning, he didn't like me because he didn't know me. But we only had each other. We became close. But at some point, he wanted to leave, and Carl started blaming me for his son to want to go back to his mother. And I said, no, you're not going to put that blame on me, because I have a tape that I recorded his son telling me that he wasn't going back to his mother because of me, but because of what Carl did that abandoned him with a stranger. And I had a lot of recording about my relationship between me and Carl on my hard drive in my computer that was in Newton Falls. The police has that. That shows his character, all the things that he did to me, how he screamed at me, how he cursed at me, how he abused me. That is all in there. Because in my first marriage, that was married before in New York for a doctor for 10 years, Tom, I had a lot of problems with his mother, and I got into the habit of taping conversations. So I had that habit. So I started taping my conversation with Carl, with everybody. No, not with everybody, just Carl and his son. So that conversation's that hard drive. He had a subscription to a site called Hogtied. Do you know what that is?
I'll tell you, I do.
You do.
I looked that site up way back in 2007.
He did that to me.
You want to explain it?
He forced me into, oh my God. Those are the things that he did to me. He forced me to do that. He forced me to play dead. He would only have an orgasm if I played dead. If I moved one muscle, he would lose his erection. So, in the beginning, when we were dating, we didn't have full sex because he wouldn't get any erection because he wasn't playing his weird games with me. Remember that when one time to New York, and I went back two times to Ohio. So he tried to have sex. The first time he couldn't because he couldn't get much. Then later on, I started using Viagra, right? But he didn't tell me. I found that in his little toiletry bag. So that was the second time. We were able to have sex because he took Viagra. He was very, I remember, he was very nervous with me, and he said, "You're not going to leave me, right? Because I'm not a man enough for you, right? Because I couldn't perform." I said, "No, I understand. Some men get nervous." He said, "It's because I had an accident when I served in country. I went once to Germany, met a woman there, and she sat on my penis, and she broke my penis. Now my penis has this lump in here, and that's the reason why I have all this dysfunction, and I'm suing the Air Force." You can see that he tried to sue the Air Force because I have an enlarged prostate and I have cancer. Oh my God, I have cancer. It was paranoid of having cancer. And he tried to make up a lot of stories why he couldn't perform. But the truth is, he only started doing this hog tie to me after we got married. And I didn't like these games. Because, like I told you, I'm a very conservative woman.
Yes.
Right? So, but I went to leave him when he started with that. But then I said, "Gosh, I already lost my job." Starting, accounting for all the stuff that I
left in New York, that you lost,
yeah.
that you gave up to move here.
I gave up,
So
yes.
you decided to keep trying.
I'm going to keep trying. Maybe I'm too old-fashioned. Maybe I should be more modern. Maybe I'll get used to it. So he beat me, and next to the bed, police was there. Police could see the bed was here. Here's the door to the here's the door to the bedroom, and here in this corner had box with things that he tortured me with, ropes, the whip, the vibrator, had all those gadgets. So, he only had sex that way with me. Either he would tie me up, or he would I would have to play dead, or he would scratch his penis on my feet until he was bleeding. It was all weird stuff, and he made me walk around naked in the house on high heels all the time. It doesn't matter how cold it was. Because even here with the heat on,
That's still, yeah.
it's still cold.
All strange things.
Yeah, those high heel things with a pom-pom, with a little ball. You seen them on Victoria's Secret?
Okay.
Those heels with, you have a little pom-pom, right? Ridiculous stuff. I felt like a hug. And that's just not me.
Right.
So I had to, I couldn't put on socks, I couldn't put on pants, I couldn't put on a jacket. If we went out to eat, it was snowing out like this, I always had to wear open shoes, open toes, shoes with, so it was torture. He tortured me.
He has a fetish, obviously.
Yes. Yes.
That
There is
becomes
one
more
little
business.
particular one that I don't feel comfortable telling you.
And you don't have to, okay?
There's one very, very bad one.
And you don't have to tell us anything you're not comfortable telling us. I think at this point, everybody, we have a very good picture that there were some fetishes and there were things that you were uncomfortable with.
Yeah. And it was
You're very
that or
conservative.
not.
And it was that or not.
There was that or hell.
So,
Cursing. He never only beat me up once. But that was the day that happened. Yeah, that was the only time that he beat me up. But he would abuse me verbally.
do you,
I have something to tell you. I'm pregnant. He went crazy. He said, I never want to be a father. I never want to have children because you're going to ruin your body. I love your body the way it is. You're going to get stretch marks. Like his first wife got a lot of stretch marks. And I don't want that. You're not going to do this to me. I want a wife. I don't want a mother. I don't want children. I want a wife. And I said, but I'm 40 years old. I can't. I'm not going to get an abortion. You will get an abortion. So I went to see him in Texas. I made a trip there. He didn't let me talk about this deprivation technique on me. So and before that, over the phone, he would call me all neurotic, crazy. You gotta get an abortion. You gotta get an abortion. You gotta get an abortion. So he would talk to me all the time about that. So I was going crazy. And when he came home to spend a weekend or a few days, I don't remember, a week, got a week off for a few days, he wouldn't let me sleep. And I begged him, I can't, you're killing me. So he would keep me up, and he would stay on bed, sitting on bed. And I would lay down and fall asleep. He would wake me up. Wake up, wake up. So he would do that all the time. And I got sick. After a few days, my body just couldn't take it anymore. I got sick from the mental pressure, from the mental torture from sleep deprivation. I wind up in the middle of the night. I felt pain, and I said, I don't know, this pain is. And all of a sudden, I had blood all over. And then he took me to a hospital. And I did the ultrasound. And they saw, you are losing the baby. We're going to try to save it, but we don't know if we're going to be able to save the baby. But she did the ultrasound and said, I don't see the fetus anymore. The sac is empty. Go home and rest. Does not. But then when I got home, I was the fetus inside the toilet, and I heard that big noise. So I saw the blood, and I stuck my hand. It was the fetus. I was very emotional. I took the fetus and put inside a little glass jar, and I showed him. He didn't want to see it, and I put it in the freezer. I said, I'll put it in the freezer because I want to bury it. I want to bury the fetus. And he went into the freezer and he threw away the fetus. It was so cold. He threw away the fetus. I want to keep it. Whatever, bury it in the yard. But that hurt me a lot because that meant nothing to him. It meant so much to me, it meant nothing to him. And then I went into the hospital to do to clean up the uterus.
Right.
So I went into surgery. So I don't know the name of the hospital because I'm not familiar with names, and I would not remember anyway. It's been 11 years. But I'm sure that my insurance, that was from his insurance, has all that paperwork. They could, you could see that my story is true. So, so after 3 or 4 months, his son went back to his mother, and our time together became a little bit better. I was more used to his abuse, but he did a lot of bad things to me. I wasn't allowed to talk. His mother doesn't talk, just like his mother. A geisha, you know what a geisha is?
No, I don't.
Japanese woman that wears that dress and she serves the men. He wanted me to be like that. Very abusive of his first wife. She left him because of that, and she loved him. Talked with friends. She said that to me. She confided that in me. His daughter also confided in me that he was abusive to his mom, to his first wife, and she left him. She asked him for divorce, and that was the beginning of his depression because he had aspirations of becoming a politician, and he felt that after that he couldn't be a politician anymore because he didn't have the perfect house, the perfect wife. And then after that, he had a second wife. There was a Peruvian woman that looked like me. That's why he married me, because I looked like his second wife. That he left her because she wanted to have children, and he simply took her out of his house and dumped her at the airport. So he ruined this woman's life. He got her to leave her job in France, and then she couldn't go back.
Did you talk to her?
He told no, I don't know her. Those are stories that he told me. So I don't remember the name. Carla. I remember her last name in a few minutes. So he left her because she wanted to have children. He was abused toward women. He married this Carla, who was Peruvian, didn't speak any English, zero. But she was perfect because all he wanted was a body. He didn't want a person for him to talk to. And what he didn't like in me is because I spoke English. He wanted a woman to be like Carla, wife number 2, that didn't speak any English and that he could...
Why didn't he just keep her then?
Because she wanted to have children. And I told...
What was going to do with that?
Yeah. And I told him that I didn't want to have children. He loved them. And I did. But I became pregnant.
And becoming pregnant the first time, based on what we talked about earlier, that becomes very important part of the story about what happened. Because that becomes a very
That's the center of...
That's the center of everything. That becomes a very important part of the story.
That's the
so you understand. Based on our conversations early, that's very important about what happened.
And I confided in my neighbor. Her name is Ella. Ella is the neighbor. She lives in the house across the street. He pregnant. This man wants you to abort. He's not right about it. He doesn't have to fight for forcing an abortion. You got to go back to New York. So I have this one person also to contribute to my story.
Very good. And that's all stuff that we can look into.
Yeah.
And we will.
Yeah.
So let's kind of keep...
Yeah.
Where do we want to go now?
Then we had those 2 years, right, of good. He was abusive, but at the same time, he would ask me for forgiveness. I always threatened to go back to New York, and he said he would change. He loved me. All I had to do was obey. If I obeyed, I would be happy. So he was telling me that he knew what was best for me. Just obey, don't talk, don't have an opinion. I had a rule a list of rules of over almost 30 things that I couldn't do. I couldn't choose my food. I couldn't choose my clothes. I couldn't choose my shoes. I couldn't talk. I couldn't pick what I was going to watch on TV. I couldn't pick my anything in the house. The house was his. I couldn't pick a furniture. I couldn't pick the color of the walls. Nothing. I had to be invisible and silent. So
After a while, that probably wears on you.
I couldn't. For this little time that you're talking to me, you know that I talk a lot.
Yeah, we've talked a lot today.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time together today.
Yes, exactly. I couldn't. I have an opinion on things.
Did that stuff kind of lead up to the depression that
Yes,
they caused?
yes. Because I'm a woman that I can talk about medicine, I can talk about politics, I can talk about psychology, I can talk to you about the end of the world, whatever we want to talk about, I will talk to you about. I have a lot of interest. So I have a lot of things inside my head. I read a lot. If I watch TV, I'll watch the news. I consider myself a nerd. I never drank. I never had drugs. I don't have tattoos. I never went out with girlfriends. I'm from work to home.
Very intelligent. Very smart.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot in the plane. Yes.
Oh, thank you very much. But he didn't appreciate that.
I do.
Well, there was a problem. That was my a defect. That was, you know, what
And
the
that
problem.
probably led to the depression.
Yes, the abuse, in the tapes on the computer, you see how he called me a bitch, very bad words. Let me see, son of a bitch, words that I don't speak. These words are not part of my vocabulary. I'm conservative. I'm a religious person. So I'm not modern. I don't like to go out partying. I like to take care of my home, and I like to work. I always work at least 14 hours a day, and I always work 7 days a week. That wasn't a problem. I worked in the CPA firm,
Right.
7 days a week.
And I know that when we were talking earlier that when you lost that job, that was the thing that was the most devastating.
So we had 2 years good. I got pregnant a second time about a year later.
So August 2006.
About 2006, I got pregnant again. And again, he did the same thing to me, the same torture. And that was a very bad time for me because it bothered him, because I was wrecking his body, his body belonged to him. I started to gain weight, and that wasn't good.
Gaining weight as a result of the pregnancy?
Depression. Of losing a baby for the second time, I became depressed.
So you lose the second baby because the same things were going on as happened the first time, a year
Exactly.
prior.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Then the
He
depression.
thought I was purposely trying to get pregnant. I didn't even think I could get pregnant anymore because right? I didn't think I could get pregnant. If he was so concerned about me not getting pregnant, why wouldn't he use a preservative, right? Right? So he wasn't so. I was married, and I didn't see a problem with that. So I did, because I didn't get pregnant. It was weird. I didn't get pregnant before him. But then I thought that was. I think that happened once. That wouldn't happen again because it didn't happen.
Now, like you told us us earlier, there's medical records for the first time. Did you go to the doctor the second time?
No, no.
Okay, so in 2006 there won't be medical records. In 2005 there should be.
There should be. Yeah.
Right. And after that, things start spiraling out of control. Right?
Yeah, but we kind of were. He was in love. All of a sudden, he was writing me little letters, calling me all the time. Things got better after. I think we got used to each other. The first year.
Yeah, because you didn't date long, so
Yeah.
it took a while to get used to each other and get comfortable.
Exactly. And his son left, which is the two of us.
Right.
We sort of dating, right? Then I got pregnant again, and he got very, very angry, and he thought I was setting.
The third time now? Or
No, the second time. And then, he thought I was setting him up.
Thought you were doing it on purpose.
Yes.
And is that kind of what he thought the third time? The third time?
No, I thought, oh yeah, he became very psychologically disturbed. He was drinking a lot. He was not doing well in Southwest.
Now, what time frame we talking? After August of 2006?
Now we are back in December of 2006. We now 3 months before.
I was saying, just to make sure I understand, because I want to make sure that what I remember is right.
Because these are things that I'm saying now that I didn't.
The day that everything happened at the house.
I'm getting to
the
that.
first time you told me you were pregnant for the third time. Is that?
Yes,
when you
that was
told
the
me?
first time.
Okay, so that's okay. I just wanted to make sure I remembered that correctly.
That was the first time. Because I was afraid.
So that would have been March.
I was afraid. I was depressed because I was afraid that his reaction would be the same reaction that he had.
The case garnered international attention, highlighting the complexities of international law and the limitations of extradition treaties. Claudia Hoerig, a woman who had renounced her Brazilian citizenship years prior, now sought refuge in the very nation she had once renounced.
You said, you know what I mean?
Yes, yes. Well,
you
wanted me to jump into that part.
I mean, I just wanted to make sure we were.
Yeah.
I wasn't putting words in your mouth.
Okay. Well, that day was a Monday. So, what happened? No. Okay, I'll go into that day. That day was a Monday, and he got home at 9 or 10 in the morning.
Now, which day are you talking?
I didn't want to tell him over the phone because he worked. He stayed home one day and 3 days out of the house with the South. 1 day and a half and 2 days and a half he would fly. So I found out I was pregnant, and I got very nervous. So I became depressed. I already knew he was not going to accept the pregnancy. So I had a plan. If he doesn't want to accept this pregnancy, I'm going to kill myself. Because I'm already fat, I lost my job, I'm 42 years old, and I'm not going to have an abortion. There's nothing that's going to make me have an abortion. And he doesn't want a child. What am I going to do? I'm going to kill myself. So I had a plan to, I'm not going to tell you my plan yet. Let me just get into this pregnancy part. So he got home, and I already had this plan to commit suicide. He doesn't want the pregnancy. I'm going to kill myself. And then we talked. He got home, and I said, I had a pregnancy test inside my pocket. I had a coat.
The years that followed were marked by legal battles and diplomatic negotiations. The U.S. government pursued all available avenues to secure Claudia's extradition, while Brazilian authorities staunchly defended their constitutional principles.
I'm pregnant. He said, I don't care if you're pregnant. You're not going to have this baby. And I said, why? You know that my daughter is pregnant, and she's 8 months pregnant, and I'm going to adopt her baby. He was telling me that. He never told me that before. He's telling me that. But the first was going to adopt his daughter's baby for her to go to college. She was 18. And I said, fine. If you don't want this baby, I'm going to have this baby. I'm going to go back to New York. I'm going to have this baby. No, you don't understand. I don't want a baby, period. I don't want to have a baby. I said, why? Because I have to support my grandchild. And I said, okay, I'll support the child. That's not a problem. Except you don't understand. I don't want a baby. Because sooner or later, you're going to ask me for money. You're going to ask me for child support. I don't want a baby. You can go back to New York if you want, but I don't want this baby. And then we got into, he grabbed me. He threw me on bed and he grabbed my throat. I just defended myself. He was very angry. And I said to him, forget it. I'm not going to have an abortion. And I said, he said, well, let me take a shower. Leave the room. Let me take a shower. He had just arrived home. And we'll talk more in a little bit. So I left the room. He locked himself inside the bedroom. And he had a shower in the bedroom. And I didn't know what to do because before that I had tried to commit suicide with sleeping pills, but he took away all my sleeping pills. I didn't have anything that would calm me down. But we had a bottle of caipirinha, which is cachaça, yeah. Because once we traveled to Brazil and we bought a bottle, I never drank before, but I thought of that. I said, maybe I should drink to calm myself down. I'll drink something while I have to. I was anxious before while I have to wait for him to finish up the shower. So I started drinking, and I had a gun. I bought a gun. But now I'm over.
No, you're on the right track. You're on the right track because you told, if I'm recalling this correctly, you had.
The Claudia Hoerig case serves as a chilling reminder of the complexities of international law and the challenges faced by law enforcement agencies in pursuing justice across borders. It raises profound questions about the balance between national sovereignty and the pursuit of justice in the face of international crime.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday was the day that he died, right? So I think on Wednesday, I knew I was pregnant. I took the pregnancy. That day, that week, I knew I was pregnant. Took the pregnancy test. Maybe it was a few days before that. So I knew I was pregnant, but I didn't tell him. He was on his trips. Got home on Monday. So he 1, 2, 3. I don't know if he was home that day. But I knew I was pregnant. So
on Wednesday of that week, you find out you're pregnant?
It's either between Monday and Thursday,
Sometime that week.
Yeah, I found out I was pregnant.
Okay.
But I didn't tell him because I was afraid. So I thought, if that man doesn't want me to have this child, I'm going to kill myself. Because I'm not going to have an abortion. So what did I do? There was a file on the internet called suicide.
You told me you found us on ways to commit.
Yeah, and between the years of between 2004 or 5, it was all over the news that people could get on the internet a file that would tell all kinds of step by step how you could commit suicide.
So you were searching the internet for possible multiple ways to kill yourself.
Yeah, and that file is even saved on the hardware, on the hard drive.
The hard drive. Okay.
Okay, and the best way of committing suicide was with the gun. But the downside of killing yourself with a gun is that it has a recoil. That most people that try to kill themselves, they lose part of their face, but they don't die because you aim here and the gun will do like that, and you wind up not dying. But that's the most successful way of killing yourself. And then there's
You
jumping
found a way
over
around
the-
that.
Right.
Well, what?
So
Tell me about that.
Yeah, then I thought that was, because there were other ways, poison, jumping off of a bridge, of a building, what do you call it, the heat, leave on the gas, the stove on, many ways. So I thought gun was a good way because they had guns. They sold guns in Ohio. That would be easy, right? And not so painful. So what I did, but I had a problem. The recoil thing bothered me because if I just get my face ripped off and I don't die, I'm in worse ways, right? So what I do, I went to the gun store.
The gun store, right?
Gun store, and I asked for a gun that was small enough for my hands, and I wanted it with the laser beam because I wanted to shoot to see what that recoil was. So they assembled it for me.
Do you remember the name of the gun shop or where it was?
It was not too far away from Newton
If I said Slug Masters, would that sound about right?
Slugs. Yes. So they helped me to find the right gun for my hand. I have small hands, and I said, what does explain to me about this laser beam? Or I said, I don't want to buy a laser beam. Just tell me the whole package. So what the whole package, and I went to
Why do you want the laser beam?
well, I'm going to explain that to you. I went to firing range, right? Because I want to shoot to understand if I aimed at that point, how much more above that point it would hit.
So you did a little research on this. I mean, obviously, because you understood that there could be a point where the laser's hitting and the bullet's not hitting in that exact spot. You researched this on the internet?
No, the beam came from my head. That was obvious.
You knew that there was a chance that bullet wouldn't hit exactly
Yeah,
where the
because
beam
the
was.
article said about the recoil.
Right, the article you were reading.
The article said about the recoil. So I was concerned about the recoil, so I had to understand about the recoil. I said, if I go to a shooting range, when I aim in that point, and if it shoots like one inch above or 2 inches, I will know how much I have to adjust it to lower it to hit where I want. So I did I don't know how much ammunition I bought, but I was there for just 1 hour. And I became very good at it. It's not difficult.
Not hard. Okay.
It's not that hard. So I was hitting the target, and I said, well, that's fine. Now, facing the gun that way, it's easy. What about facing the gun sideways? That's totally different. That's not going to work.
How are you going to see where the laser's hitting?
You see a little...
If you do this, how do you see where the laser's hitting?
No, you didn't get it.
Yeah, because that's where I was.
Get it.
That's where I was fascinated when you told me about the thing.
The laser beam is not for killing myself. The laser beam was to understand the recoil. What is recoil?
She wanted to see if she pointed the gun.
If I pointed here,
Okay.
it will hit here. I would understand how much I would have. If I want to hit here, actually I have to aim it here. So the laser beam was for me to understand what is recoil, what's the distance.
I get what you're saying.
Okay.
not accurate, but I get what you're saying.
Makes sense. And we understand.
You can't. Here's what I'll tell you. Because I can tell you this now. You can't control recoil. Okay?
But I only figured that out late after I did it.
Okay, she actually told me that she figured out that if she couldn't figure it out.
We wouldn't.
I actually teach that stuff. That's why I was going to teach you real quick.
Right. So I said.
If you enjoyed, drop a like, comment, and subscribe for more true crime content. Share this video to raise awareness about the complexities of international law and the pursuit of justice. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.